Joining us right now, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. Good morning, sir. Welcome back.
Chad, good morning. Good to be with you.
I appreciate you joining us today. We have a lot of ground to cover. I want to start off with NAFTA. You released a plan, and I know a video came out yesterday of some NAFTA renegotiations and really some of your ideas behind what you would like to see changed along with NAFTA, correct?
That's right. And, you know, when it comes to NAFTA, the most frequent concern I hear from Texas farmers, Texas ranchers, Texas business owners is what's going to happen with trade, and NAFTA in particular. Texas has done very, very well under NAFTA. Now, in my view, NAFTA renegotiation, it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. If NAFTA renegotiation is used to further expand our access to the markets in Mexico and Canada to enable our farmers and ranchers and manufacturers to sell more of our goods, more of our crops, more of our livestock, that's a good thing. If, on the other hand, it is used as a vehicle to erect barriers to the American market, to shut down trade, that would be a bad thing. And so I have enthusiastically urged the president to use NAFTA renegotiation to expand trade, and specifically the idea that you're referencing is I joined with two other senators, Cory Gardner from Colorado and Steve Daines from Montana, and we urge the president to use NAFTA renegotiation as a vehicle for regulatory reform, to put into law, to codify lifting the regulatory burdens of Washington on small businesses and job creators, and in particular, to use that to enact what's called the REINS Act. The REINS Act is legislation I'm an original sponsor of that says any economic regulation that imposes $100 million or more of cost on the economy cannot go into effect without Congress voting up or down on it. It means you can't have unelected bureaucrats doing things like the Waters of the United States rule without ever any member of Congress having to vote on it.
Right.
If we enacted that, it would be the most meaningful regulatory reform, the most important relief from job-killing regulations we've ever enacted. And if it's attached to NAFTA, it goes straight to Congress for an expedited vote that can't be filibustered. So the Democrats do not have the ability to filibuster it. It's just the 50-vote threshold. So it would be a tremendous victory for the economy and a tremendous victory for Texas.
Visiting with U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, what do you think the president's thinking is right now on NAFTA? Because we'll hear things in spurts, but we really haven't seen a plan from the president. What do you think his thinking is right now?
Chad, I understand the concern across the state, and I share that concern. That there are voices within the administration on both sides of this issue. Mm-hmm. And there are certainly voices within this administration that are deep skeptics. I have had multiple conversations with the president in the White House where he's asked over and over again, should we pull out of NAFTA altogether? And my answer has been emphatically no. That would be very bad for Texas and very bad for the country. I hope he doesn't do that. I don't think he's going to do that. But what direction NAFTA renegotiation goes, I think is still up in the air. I'm told we should be seeing something soon, but I don't know when.
Just the other day, there was a presentation over the Iranian nuclear program. The president is still mulling over whether or not to pull the U.S. out of that agreement. What were your overall thoughts, and what do you think the president should do?
Well, I thought it was an incredibly important presentation that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made. And, in fact, I would encourage your listeners to take 20 minutes, Google it, and watch it online. It is a speech unlike any speech ever given by any head of state ever, in which Prime Minister Netanyahu walks through systematically laying out the case. And what he describes is that Israeli intelligence officers, the Mossad, captured over 110,000 secret documents from Iran. I mean, it was an incredible intelligence operation. I assume they're going to make movies about it one day. And these secret documents from Iran demonstrate that Iran has been lying for 20 years, that for 20 years Iran has had a secret program working to develop nuclear weapons. They publicly lied about it over and over and over again. And Prime Minister Netanyahu makes that case chapter and verse using original Iranian documents, using original Iranian photographs, using original Iranian video of their researching, trying to develop nuclear weapons. And the long and short of it is, what he proves conclusively is that the Obama-Iran nuclear deal was built on an edifice of lies. It was one lie after the other after the other. The consequences of that deal are that we're sending billions of dollars to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. Iran is directly responsible for murdering hundreds of American servicemen and women. And that if Iran ever gets a nuclear weapon, which has been their singular focus for over 2 decades, that the odds are unacceptably high that the Ayatollah Khamenei will use that weapon. And so you ask, what should President Trump do? I think the path is clear. I believe we should withdraw from the Obama-Iran deal immediately. We should reimpose crushing sanctions. We should urge our allies to do the same. And we should make clear that we will do whatever is necessary to make sure that the Ayatollah never, never, never gets nuclear weapons.
There are many on the left who would disagree with you on the United States pulling out of the Iranian agreement, and maybe your challenger would disagree with you on that. Why do you think it would be a bad idea to stay in this agreement?
Well, and Chad, you're right about my Democratic challenger. Congressman Beto O'Rourke is running hard left, and there are many, many issues on which he and I disagree widely. The Iran deal is one of them. He was a vocal defender of President Obama's Iran deal. In fact, he was such a strong defender that when Prime Minister Netanyahu came to address a joint session of Congress, Congressman Beto O'Rourke boycotted the session, refused to even sit in his seat and listen to the Israeli Prime Minister. He refused to be there because he so strongly supports this Iran deal. Those on the left believe that appeasement works. They believe that sending billions of dollars to the Ayatollah Khamenei, who literally leads chants of death to America and death to Israel, they believe if you pay him enough, that suddenly he will be have peaceful and kind and wonderful intentions. It is hopelessly naive. If history has taught anything, it is that weakness and appeasement don't work. And Chad, I got to say, in Texas, Texans understand the difference between dealing with bullies with weakness and appeasement or dealing with strength. And I believe in peace through strength. Just like Ronald Reagan, the way to deal with the Ayatollah Khamenei is with resolve and strength. And that's what pulling out of the deal and imposing sanctions would be doing, instead of funding the terrorists who are trying to kill us. Congressman O'Rourke supports a deal. The Obama administration sent $1.7 billion in cash, in unmarked bills, in pallets in the dead of night in planes to Iran. If you're giving billions of dollars to terrorists, you are in effect becoming the largest financier of terrorism in the world. We need to stop that, and we need to stop it now.
Visiting with U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz, as you know, I had your opponent on my show last month, and one of the issues that was brought up was the impeachment or possible impeachment of President Trump. And at the time, Beto O'Rourke said that when I asked him if he would vote to impeach the president, he said, quote, "The answer is yes, because I want to be straight with you." He said, "I've seen an attempt, no matter how ham-handed, to collude with a foreign government in our national election." He also prefaced it by saying we must await all the facts, all the truth, all the information from the Bob Mueller investigation. Over the weekend, he sort of, I think, softened his tone, and on MSNBC, he said that it would be premature to have that conversation over impeachment. How do you think he really feels, and how do you think the left feels about impeachment of the president?
Well, Chad, I think when you had Congressman O'Rourke on your show, you made news and he made news. He became the first Democratic candidate for Senate in the country to come out explicitly and say categorically, yes, he would vote to impeach Donald Trump. That's what he said to you on the air, is he would vote yes. Now, I will say, I am certain that in the 48 hours that followed that statement, that he raised millions of dollars nationwide, that the far left, that they are angry, they are filled with rage, they hate the president. And part of the reason why Congressman Beto O'Rourke is raising more money than any Democratic candidate in the country is because he's running so far left and he's doing things like making promises to impeach Donald Trump. I think that is great for raising money in Hollywood and New York City and from liberals all across the country, but I don't think that reflects the values of Texans. That's not, Texans do not want to see in January the entire federal government ground to a halt as Democrats go on the war path and try to impeach the president, try to investigate and subpoena every federal agency, and try to really cripple the ability of the administration to continue lifting job-killing regulations, continue working to fuel jobs and economic growth. That's not what Texans want to see, and it is where Congressman O'Rourke and much of the Democratic Party today is.
Senator, there's a headline today from the Texas Tribune, Patrick Svitek writing this story. The headline, Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz are beginning to spar over the war on drugs and marijuana legalization. What's bringing all of this up right now?
Well, it's really a story that came out yesterday that described Congressman O'Rourke's record when he was on the El Paso City Council. And when he was on the El Paso City Council, he introduced a resolution for the city council to debate legalizing all narcotics, not just marijuana. Listen, reasonable minds can disagree on whether marijuana should be legalized. Personally, I would vote against it, but I also think it's a question for the states. I think each state can resolve that differently. I think Texas can reach a different decision than Colorado, and that's the beauty of the 10th Amendment in our Constitution is we have 50 states, and federalism can operate. Legalizing marijuana is one thing, but Congressman O'Rourke's resolution went way, way, way beyond that. He proposed legalizing all narcotics, everything, heroin, opioids, every narcotic, legalizing them all, ending the federal prohibition on narcotics. That is, Chad, as you know, a radical and extreme position. We're facing in this country an opioid crisis. More people die every year from drug overdose.
Senator,
that die from car accidents.
Senator, I have to let you go. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, my friend.